What's up, everybody? I'm back, wrapping up February month with a couple of movies. For one, romantic comedy, and the other, and the black, African American side of things. And this one is something I forgot. Not didn't forget, but something I really enjoyed and came across years ago when it came out on cable. Midnight in Paris, starring Owen Wilson. Now, before I continue, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button and review. And leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of this film. If you recall seeing this film, highly encourage you do. Follow me on my Twitch and YouTube channel as I stream video games like Resident Evil Requiem, which I'll be doing so very soon, but also react to videos and reviewing content. I just did a review of a Flash comic, which should be up on my YouTube channel pretty soon. But anyways, this now, hold on to your butts, but this was directed and written by Woody Allen. Now, he did make a fair amount of good movies. His personal life is definitely very, very icky. Kind of stuff that Ricky Gervais often, makes fun of in terms of Hollywood and celebrities and who they choose to work with. But I'm not here to talk about that. But it stars Owen Wilson as Gil Pender, Rachel McAdams as Inez, Marion Cotillard as Adrina. You might remember her as Talia al Ghul from The Dark Knight Rises. Tom Hiddleston as F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Alison Pill as Zelda Fitzgerald. Didn't know his wife was named Zelda. I was wondering if the creators of Legend of Zelda picked that name, because not many people who goes by the name Zelda. Corey Stoll as Ernest Hemingway, which honestly, I gotta put this right out the gate. I think his portrayal of Hemingway was excellent. I totally bought into it. And I haven't really done much research on how Hemingway carries himself, but I'm willing to buy, because he's known to be kind of brash and blunt of a person. And he pretty much, really sells it. And I just like his performance as Hemingway. And the way he kind of recites certain lines of dialogue, I'm by an author of that caliber would just spout these, or I would say spout, but kind of regurgitate this kind of very, higher tier level of thinking in quotes. But you might remember him as the bad guy from Ant-Man films. We got Adrian Brody as Salvador Dali. It's crazy how a star-studded cast this is. We got Kathy Bates as Gertrude Stein, Michael Sheen as Paul Bates, Nina Audrida as Carol Bates, Carla Bruni as the museum guide. Didn't bother to give her this woman a name. We got Kurt Fuller as John, Inez's father. Mimi Kennedy as Helen, Inez's mother. We got Leah Sardou, or Sadoui, as Gabrielle. And it's just it's very French of a cast or even like a movie, very French, which obviously is par for the course given the location. We got Therese Barreau Rubenstein as Alice B. Toklas. Michael De Fonzo or Marcelo De Fonzo as Pablo Picasso. Emmanuel Uzan as Dujuna Barnes. Tom Cardier as Man Ray. Adrian Devon as Louis Buñuel. I'm butchering a lot of these names. David Lowe as T.S. Eliot. Yves Antoine Spoto as Henry Matisse or Matisse. Lauren Claret as Leo Stein. So, yeah. We're following along with Gil Pender, not to be confused with Bill Pender, who is vacationing in Paris with his fiancée and her parents, who's on like a business trip. And they're tagging along. Now, there's no traditional villain in this film. But if you would ascribe a villain of this film, it is Inez. This woman is so disrespectful. It's almost on the same level as Jenny from Forrest Gump in terms of horrific of a woman, where she dismisses a guy's feelings and bumps into, like, Michael Sheen's character, an old school friend of hers, that she openly admits she had a huge crush on him, and it's like, bitch, what is wrong with you? Paul Bates, that's Michael Sheen's character's name, and it's like, she is a total bitch. And the guy, she downplays because he's a screenwriter, but wants to be a novelist. And has been working on this material that he's, having trouble, like, getting everything together. He doesn't want anybody else to read it because he doesn't trust anybody's kind of like opinion of it. And that's partly why he's like freaking out so much on how, like, how's it shaping out. Because he wants to get out of the whole screenwriting thing, because that's not where his passion lies, even though he's making good money. And he's thinking about moving to Paris because he has this kind of nostalgia of Paris, especially Paris of the 1920s. And he idolizes artists of that era, like F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife, like, Pablo Picasso, Ernest Hemingway. He loves Ernest Hemingway, Salvador Dali, etc. And his book is about like a character working at a novelty store kind of thing. And it's obviously this woman does not love him. She doesn't have the same kind of taste or appreciation, or even like respecting the fact that he has this kind of appreciation of this era, of the city. He wants to walk in, walk on the, in Paris in the rain because he thinks it's like, he romanticizes it. She doesn't share the same feelings. Now, I get it. You don't have to like the same things as your significant other likes, but you can at least appreciate it or try to want to understand it. Like, he wants to walk in the rain in Paris. And even though that might not be my thing or most people's thing, I can, if I had like a woman who romanticizes walking in the rain in Paris, I'll be more than obliged to do so, because how often do you get to have that kind of experience? It is a degree of romance behind it. It's Paris, city of love, city of the lights. Is one of the unique traits about Paris that make it one of the most unique places on the planet. But Inez could not stand this freaking city. And, of course, her parents, a very high city type of people, don't even like the guy. Don't like Gil at all. Don't know why she even bothered to be engaged to the guy like that. Sure, I'm pretty sure he makes pretty good money as a screenwriter, but it cannot be that because clearly she comes from a rich family. So, I don't even know why she's even with the dude. Like, cut your freaking losses. Why do you accept the engagement? Then here comes this chowderhead, Paul, who comes in all like with his wife. Don't know what happened to her. She kind of disappeared halfway through. A lot of characters do in a way. But she, well, Paul, is just a insufferable douche. Try to correct a historian tour guide as they're going through, talking about certain arts and the the artist and his or her like background, and he tries to correct her when she would know more because she is from Paris. She is a historian, a tour guide whose job it is to know this stuff. So him trying to correct her shows the pompousness of that guy. But Inez is so infatuated, and when he's talking, Gil tries to interject. She tells Gil to be quiet, and it's like, oh my god. And Paul's supposed wife or girlfriend don't bother to say anything at all. She lets that entire thing just completely ride. And so Gil, very passive a dude, don't bother to say anything. It's kind of like, man, like, y'all, or at least Woody Allen's portraying this guy with no balls. It is kind of like, I mean, he's, of course, Gil says something, but, Inez pretty much gaslights him a lot. Like, he's not seeing what or hearing what is being displayed. Because she knew what she was doing. It is wild to me. She is a bitch. And a HOE on top of that. We'll get to that soon. She's definitely for the streets. Anyway, after a night of wine tasting, Inez still wants to go out to this other event with Paul and his girlfriend, but Gil wants to kind of walk it off, taking the night air, because he still wants to like work on a bit of his writing, because it's a good muse for him. The city is a good muse for him. So as he's walking the streets of Paris, trying to find his way back to the hotel, it's midnight. And then a strange old style automobile pulls up in front of him. Some people invite him in and take him to this party. And at the party, they all introduce themselves as the Fitzgeralds. And of course, Gil, recognizing a lot of their faces, the people at the party's faces, a lot of them are, famous artists, writers, filmmakers, and painters. Well, artists in a variety of fields of like art, music, and filmmaking of the 20th century. And Gil is just kind of awestruck. And of course, he is hesitant on telling them, because they'll probably think he's crazy, that he's from the future, 2010. but he's kind of like, rolling with the punches here. So out of like hanging out with his idols essentially of yesteryear, he eventually is introduced to Ernest Hemingway, who he is like such a fan of that even though he typically doesn't want anybody else to read his stuff, but for his idol, a fellow writer, he definitely will love him to read his stuff because he trusts his opinion above anybody else's. However, Hemingway tells him, I hate it. It's like, well, you haven't even read it. It doesn't matter. If I read it and it's terrible, I will know. I will definitely hate it. If I read it and I like it, I will hate it out of sheer jealousy because writers, are always in competition with each other and they will just naturally hate each other. But he suggests that he'll introduce him to Gertrude Stein, who's the only person Hemingway would let read his work and trust her judgment. So that's what he suggests, that Gil get his work, hand over to Gertrude. He'll introduce to Gertrude, and he'll hand over what he wrote so far to her so she can critique it. And so he is just like enthusiastic because this is he essentially just time travel into the past, meeting his idols and getting these icons who have written and worked on the most famous materials of history. So yeah, why would you not especially if you're working on the kind of same field as them, why would you not have any one of them look over your work and critique it? Because you will trust their judgment above all else. It's the same thing with me as like an actor. If I can I've through cons I met voice actors like Steve Bloom and Dan Green, who gave me a bit of advice. The little time I had with them, they gave me a bit of advice. Because yes, I would trust as a voice actor, definitely an actor, but specifically a voice actor. Of course, I would trust their voices above most other people. Because not only they have proven track record, but they have the knowledge and the tutelage they can bestow upon somebody who's like pretty much a baby in the game by comparison. Of course, I took classes, but it's just like your idols. Like if you're like an aspiring musical artist, of course, like if you work on a musical instrument, or if you're a singer, if you meet somebody like Jamie Foxx, of course you would listen to Jamie Foxx's word above anybody else. Or if you time travel to a musical artist of the 20s, 30s, 40s, or whatever, I don't know, you meet like Ray Charles, or you meet I don't know, or if you're like a painter or aspiring painter, if you time travel and meet Pablo Picasso or Leonardo da Vinci, of course you will show your work to any of them because they are they're the upper echelon of artists. So why would you not have them look at your work? So this really speaks to, especially if somebody who's in the creative field, this movie will kind of speak to you in a way, because if you're struggling, or you have writer's block or some kind of issue, you kind of wish you had somebody of that caliber to give you some pointers, so that way it can at least point you in the right direction, so that way it can elevate your work. Anyway, so he's Gil is just ecstatic. He's making his way back in the present. he is just like, his mind is like in a swirl, because he's trying to wrap his mind around the fact that he just time traveled to the 1920s, meeting his artistic idols, and especially Hemingway, and getting to meet Gertrude to critique his work. He's on a high right now, but he's also wrestling the fact that, okay, did it just happen, or what? So he, trying to get Inez to like come with him one night so she can see what happened, because hopefully he doesn't think he's crazy. But she isn't staying, up to past midnight. She is so self-centered. This chick is just like, if you watch this movie, you will hate this woman off rip. It's like Regina George all over again. And it's kind of proper it being Rachel McAdams. Anyway, let me wet my whistle here. So anyway, a car eventually pulls up when, of course, Inez long gone. So he meets back up with Hemingway, and he introduces her to Pablo Picasso and Gertrude, and she, he hands her the first couple of chapters of what he wrote so far, and she tells him to give her a day, come back, and she'll give her thoughts and opinions. While there, he meets up with this beautiful woman, the muse to Pablo Picasso's current work, which I'm not sure if this is an actual painting, because this person isn't, in history. She's a fictionalized mistress of Pablo Picasso, Adriana. And she, after hearing what little bit of the first bits in the first chapter, she is immediately enthralled by the work. She and Gil starts hitting it off. But of course, she, has her little fling, because even back in somewhere like the 20s, there's always been girls like, kind of like, as Gil puts it, a artist groupie. Of course, groupie wasn't like a term back in the 20s. I don't know if it wasn't invented until maybe the 60s at the earliest. Right when like the term rock star was a thing. I could be wrong, but I like to say like there, around the time when rock stars would really like become like a thing. That's when, well, I wouldn't say rock stars, but I'm trying to correlate the term groupie with rock stars, because there's always been musicians, but the term groupie wasn't a thing, even though there was groupie activity long ago. But because girls always infatuated with bad boys or high status people. But the term groupie, I don't think was invented until at the earliest the 60s. Anyway, so Gil and Adriana, they share like similar passions, but she goes off with Hemingway to Africa, as he's like, I don't know, I don't think he was hunting, but he was definitely like just, I guess, getting she's like everybody's muse, so she kind of pals around with them, much to the chagrin of Gil. But he ends up meeting with what was it, Salvador Dali, and I think it was Louis Buñuel, and I think Man Ray, and he just had to talk with somebody about this, and he figured, look, I can tell you guys, and they take it in stride. They don't like think he's crazy because they buy wholesale. Matter of fact, while listening to his, listening to him, they figure out ways how to put it into art in a way because they're surrealists, and that's what he points. Of course, Gil says, like, of course y'all believe me because y'all surrealists. Y'all think on like a different kind of plane. Because he needed to tell somebody, because otherwise he would feel like he's gonna bust. And I like the dialogue between like a lot of these like Gil and these famous artistes. Because you just kind of like really invested, because you look at these guys and you tend to forget that there was so much history done. It's kind of like we know about the Renaissance, but you can argue in the 1920s there was like a second Renaissance, because there's also like a Black Renaissance. There's like the turn of the century was a age of like just like a booming of a creativity, no holds barred, anything goes in terms of paintings, writing, music, film, acting. You look at this, you can't help but think about like so much was done in this era that influenced what we are today. So many materials have birthed like just a multitude of artists, like how many people were influenced by Scott Fitzgerald and his wife, or Man Ray, Pablo Picasso, and T.S. Eliot, and Salvador Dali, and Ernest Hemingway especially. So much has been like influenced in this era. I don't think we put a light to that much. So kudos to Woody Allen for coming up with this idea, because looking at this, you get a whole new appreciation of that time frame. And mind you, this is way before World War II, just after WW1. I'm pretty sure, not too far off before the Great Depression, but is a good sweet spot in terms of an era of creativity before things really take a downward spiral getting into WW2. Matter of fact, because I did a review of a Walt Disney biopic not too long ago in January, where it would be probably a good 20 years before we get Walt Disney. Long after the war, we start, Walt Disney starts to work his way into creating Mickey Mouse in terms of cartoons. So, there's a good time frame of a lot of stuff being birthed. Like it's like it's always like, I guess, certain moments in history where creativity is at its ripest, and I feel bad about creativity nowadays, where it's so few and far between, because now things are just regurgitated. There's no free reign for creativity because everybody's so doggone sensitive about stuff. Most of the stuff that Ernest Hemingway or Salvador Dali, etc., things that they done or did, or in terms of their creativity, whether they put to page or to paintings or to film, would not have flown by today's standards, because that would be seen as misogynistic, or that's culturally insensitive, or whatever. Because that's the problem. Even back in like the 80s and 90s, in terms of cartoons or things that or TV, there was a more room for creativity to be. You could stretch your creativity a bit. There was no handcuffing of what you can say or do without worrying of offending too much people. There's always going to be people who might be a little offended, but those people who get offended, they don't have like the reach to restrain you like they are today. Like people of the alphabet community cannot go around talking about, oh, you cannot say that or paint that or write that, because you will hurt like our fifis, and there won't be no issue of boycotting. It's just you take it on the chin. If you don't like it, don't be bothered with it. It's just like, it makes you miss that moment, or at least times like this, because right now it's like a creative drought, or at least an oasis of creativity here and there in this cultural desert. I like to think we're making like a right turn with that, because we need to be able to freely express ourselves like the Hemingways and the Salvador Dalis of yesteryear, or even like creators of the 80s and the 90s or the 70s, where it's like full expression, no holds barred. Some stuff might work, some might not, but at least you give them like room to breathe and try. Studios nowadays don't want to give people risks. Even like publishing companies don't want to take risk anymore. Comic book companies don't want to take risk anymore. It's all about what's culturally acceptable without offending a vast majority of people. I want to say a vast majority, a subsection of people, let's just say. Sorry, kind of went for a tangent here. It just kind of just makes you think. What movies, books, and comics, and music, comedy should make you think on a level. They don't treat you with kid gloves. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Oh God, because I love creativity. I like free expression, certainly. And you should be able to go with the flow without worrying a bunch of feelings majority of the time. Anyway, where was I? So, of course, Gil's infatuated with Adriana, and he's second guessing his feelings with Inez. He's looking at her a different way. So, the parents is suspicious of Gil. The father ends up hiring like a private investigator to follow Gil because they don't trust him. They think he's doing something nefarious by going on these little walks. Gil ends up, I don't know why he go with this. I guess he didn't think he need to spend the money, but he ends up stealing his fiance, one of her older earrings, but he thought they would have left because they was going somewhere else for a thing that's not in Paris, but they have to make an emergency return because of a health condition with the father. So he had to change things up and decide to purchase some earrings, because as he was walking down a street and people selling records and books and other knickknacks, he come across a book coincidentally written by Adriana. Don't know how he might have spotted the title name of the author of that small book, but he ends up buying the book. Of course, it's all in French. He finds the tour guide to read the book to him, translated essentially, and it proves that he actually did time travel, because Adriana written in a journal about a dream she had while she was in Africa with Hemingway, a dream she had about Gil, that he gifted her some earrings and they made passionate love. So fully ready to cheat on his fiance with a person of the past, he buys some earrings and goes back in time again as she is back from the trip. He gets his pointers from Gertrude and also Hemingway took a gander at it, even though he said he wouldn't. But they both gave their critiques. Thought they, I forget like the other specifics, but the major thing they point out is the fact that the main character, which obviously is based off of Gil, and his wife in the book is based off of Inez, points out like how come the main character doesn't realize that his wife is clearly cheating on him with this pompous, a-hole. But of course, the way they put it is kind of forcing him to make this realization that his fiance is clearly cheating on him. And he points out the fact that like what they're describing is denial. So as he makes his way back to the present, he confronts Inez about like what her and Paul clearly would have been doing, and she just admits that because he's smart and all his other stuff. Like, no, he's feigning intellect. What he is like a pompous asshole who probably knows surface level stuff. And then you still have a thing for him. Don't know what happened to the guy's girlfriend. I'm led to believe that they probably had like a threesome or something, because, why would she allow that? Don't know if they even breaking up. It's never really fully explained what happened to that girl. She completely disappeared after the first time we saw her. So Gil just says like, we're done. Like, is completely broken off the engagement. So going back to the past, spend time with the Fitzgeralds and Adriana and Hemingway. They hang out. He gifted her the earrings, and then she reminisces about an era she thought was the golden age, and it was like during like the 19th century, like 18 something, and meeting other artists that she idolizes, like what is it? Comte Henry Marie Raymond Therese Lautrec Montfort. I might have butchered that like hell, but and there's also like Paul Gauguin, Henry Paul Gauguin, or Edgar Degas, French impressionist artist. She tells Gil that she wants to stay here in the past because she thinks her present life in the 1920s, mind you, is so boring and nothing exciting and whatever. And this kind of, put it in perspective with Gil as he admits to her that he's from 2010. 1920s is his nostalgic era that he's trying to escape to, and he thinks it's like the greatest time ever in his eyes. For Adriana, the 19th century is her, nostalgic era. And he points out to them, I'm pretty sure their nostalgic era would have been like during the Renaissance. And even to them, Leonardo da Vinci, I'm pretty sure his nostalgic era is some point in Rome. And it's like a perpetual cycle. It's like, it's fun to, I guess, the main theme or the lesson you can learn from this film is that it sure is fun to relive certain nostalgic eras, but it can't be your you can't be obsessed with it in a way. I guess it's like a proper way to put it. It's just like it is essentially it's like a little box you can put in your mind that every once in a while you can revisit, but you have to come back to reality in the present because there is some stuff going on presently that you can enjoy. You can't keep living in the past essentially. She of course disagrees. She decides to stay in the past with her idols and live out that life. Whereas Gil decides to go back to his present, taking on the advice because Gertrude mentions how great the work and glad he took what she said to heart, and he's on a good path to write like a great novel. So he back in the present as he's walking the streets, he bumps into one of the ladies that was selling him like a musical record a couple of days ago, played by once again Leah Sado, her character Gabrielle. These two immediately start hitting off because they actually do share a lot of interest in Paris. He confessed to her that he planned on moving here, and it starts to rain, and she suggests that they walk in the rain because it's actually beautiful here in Paris as you walk in the rain here. And the movie ends as they walk along the streets in the rain together. And that was Midnight in Paris. I remember watching this quite a few times when it came out because I got a lot out of it. It was like just not like, it's one of those movies where it doesn't really need like a bad guy or some kind of overarching thing. It's just like a guy. The way I can put it is like a slice of life kind of thing. Is like you see in like certain animes. Is pretty much like a functional equivalent to this, where with a little bit of fantasy involved, where your idols pretty much putting things in perspective for you. Matter of fact, there was like a moment where Gil bumps into Louis Buñuel, and he gives him the idea of one of his famous films in 1962. They of course it was 1920s, so it took 40 years before he eventually made this particular movie, but it's called The Experimenting Angel. In Spanish is El Angel Exterminador. It was about like wealthy party guests unable to leave the party, leading to chaos and grotesque captivity. The film is known for its satirical and allegorical elements depicting the aristocracy with savage instincts and secrets. It was eventually adapted into an opera by Thomas Edis in 2016. And has been included in the list of the best movies ever made by the New York Times. So, yeah. So if you're interested, check it out, because apparently, like, thanks to Gil Pender, he gave that Spanish director this movie idea that made big bucks. Speaking of big bucks, this movie had like a budget of $17 million, and Midnight in Paris raked in the box office of $151.7 million. So it did very well. So yeah, I really like this movie. It's really, really good. So I highly encourage you guys, especially if you are in the creative field, you might get something out of this personally. Kind of like my review of Tick Tick Boom, starring Andrew Garfield, about the creator of the play Rent. and his struggles trying to get his play off the ground. So, yeah, it's something that, like, as creatives, you inherently understand. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit. I have like a fun movie to review called The Cherokee Kid, starring Sinbad, not Shaq. That's Kazam. Sinbad. It's a good. Way before there was Wild Wild West, we had The Cherokee Kid. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys soon. Leave a comment below if you have seen Midnight in Paris before. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.